Welcome to the Branded Impact Podcast. On this show, we go beyond surface level branding, honest conversations with industry leaders, behind the scenes of aligned brand building, and actionable insights to help you elevate your presence. I'm your host, Jo Espejo, aka Jo. Hit subscribe and join me each week for the Branded Impact Podcast. What if you could grow a thriving business and raise a family without outside funding or a perfect plan? On today's episode of the Branded Impact Podcast, I am joined by Lisa Klapschinski, founder and CEO of LMK Recruiting Solutions. Lisa has built a fast growing recruiting firm serving manufacturing, logistics, and tech. In our conversation, she's going to be sharing how she designed her business around the life she wanted, why authenticity is her biggest brand asset, and how you can start where you are and build something incredible. Lisa, thank you so much for joining me today. If you can start by taking us back and letting me know why you even decided to start LMK Recruiting Solutions.
Absolutely. So I was an individual recruiter for about 5 or 6 years, always doing very well. I met my now husband, and it was a whirlwind where we met, were married in 5 months, decided to start having a family. Yeah. And at that time, I was really nervous about having a child and also balancing going into an office every day on someone else's schedule. I don't know. My husband thought I was absolutely crazy. I just came home from work one day. I was like 6 months pregnant. And I said, I can't do this. And he was like, well, we just bought our first house. So you have to do this. And I was like, oh, no, I'm gonna start a company. And at that time, I had no idea what that meant. I did not have any sort of business plan. I didn't have investors waiting to invest in my big, brilliant idea. So he said, okay, well, let's figure this out. So we completely cut a whole bunch of unnecessary things out of our budget. And I dedicated 15 minutes a day is how I started to what does it look like to even start a company? What do I need to do? And so from there, I went on maternity leave and still dedicated 15 minutes a day to figuring it out. And then I don't know how in the weeds we're going to get here, but fast forward now 5 years later, and I have a full company. So that's sort of the intro there.
That's amazing. 15 minutes a day. I'm reminded by listening to that we get caught up in how big something has to be. And so it almost freezes us from wanting to do it because it's like, no, but then I have to figure out all these things. And so you just took it and you're like, well, bite-sized chunks. I'm going to dedicate 15 minutes every day and then I'm going to launch. So how long did it take you from like, I'm doing this to like, I officially launched?
Yeah. So, I mean, within that 15 minutes, a day when I was probably right after I gave birth and I had a newborn and I was a new mom. I was completely learning how to even just live life completely differently at that point. But I stuck to it and I would just look up companies on Indeed that were hiring and I would call them and say, hey, I have recruitment services. Now, at that time, I had absolutely nothing. I didn't have a website or a phone number. I didn't even have an email. And I would just put myself out there. And I was humbled very quickly with cold calling and kind of putting myself out there. But I would say it took about, I don't know, before I really got my first client, probably 5, 6 months of doing that consistently. It took a while because I wasn't dedicating full days, but I just knew that I wanted freedom. I knew that in addition to freedom, I wanted to be there for my kids. I knew I wanted to have a family. And I knew that, I mean, I just wanted to have something that I can also give back to my kids. So I think my vision is really what fueled the craziness in the beginning and just sort of sticking it out.
So then you shifted. So it took you a little while. You finally landed a client, but I find it very intriguing that it's 15 minutes a day. And then you just started.
Just
And you're
started.
like, listen, I'm not waiting for all of the logistics. Right. And I'm in branding and I laugh because I'm like, guys, like, yes, I eventually want you to have a website and I want you to have all of this stuff eventually, but don't hold yourself back from getting started. And this is something I actually just told somebody else. She's like, well, I'm in the middle of a redesign. So I guess I'll start posting on social media when all that comes out. I'm like, no, start now. Let people
Hmm.
know that you're here now. And then you just elevate.
Yes.
At what point, though, did you decide you're like, okay, this is what I'm doing. I've been bootstrapping it, but when did you go from, I don't have an email, I don't have a website, I'm doing this, to like feeling you had the need and the desire to get into that?
Yeah, so probably about a year into it, I remember specifically sitting down and making a list of, okay, now I've got some clients, I'm getting, some things going, I'm balancing it all. Now let's start to make this a company. Like, let's make this more real. So I made a to-do list for myself, was like, buy domain. Step two, what is a domain? You know what I mean? Like, so just, and I have my bachelor's degree, but I don't remember any of this stuff from when I went to college. So it was like, okay, let's just really scale it way back because I was so intimidated by a website and this and that. So I just literally would do, okay, buy domain, do website, do this, do that. And then I would, during my 15 minutes a day, I would just attack that each things on the list. And then before I knew it, I had a website, I had an email address. And then probably by year, maybe 2.5 is when I had so many clients that I was balancing on my own and doing everything that I said, okay, I need to bring someone else in. Um, and I was just really transparent at that point when I was growing. Like, hey, I'm a mom who's starting a business and this is what it looks like. Like, are you down with that? And fortunately, the very first person that I added, she's still with me a couple years later. We started out with her coming to my garage and like making phone calls that way. I didn't invest in some crazy expensive office and blow the budget. And I just did things in small increments.
So did you feel like there's a difference now though? So you're
Mhm.
making cold calls. What is the difference between that place where you didn't even have a business name, you didn't have a company email, website, to now that you do? Like, have you found that that's helped? Do you wish you would have done it sooner? Like, do you found benefit in that? I guess what are some of those? There's lots of questions all at once. So
Yeah.
where you'd like to start with that.
What would I do differently? I probably would have branded myself more as a business from the beginning to my clients because the clients that I had when I first started were so like gung ho on me doing all the work myself rather than being a business. So I was more of like a contractor. So having them switch the mindset later of, oh, well, I have a team that does the same thing that I do, but it's just not me. That was one of the barriers that I had to overcome. So I think if I had to do it again, I would probably introduce my team sooner because for a while it was like smoke and mirrors where they were doing most of the work and then I was finishing it. And if I were to just have been upfront, like, hey, I have a team, but I don't know, I didn't know how to have those conversations. And then one day I just said, this needs to change because too much is falling on me right now. So I just flipped the switch and had the conversations with them and they were all fine. I really actually didn't get any feedback. They cared about the end result, right? Am I still finding great talent? Is it happening quickly? Is it quality? And it was, so they weren't bothered by it. But that's something I would definitely do differently.
And I think that's something that we hold on to, I think almost as a fear whenever you're starting out as a solopreneur and then you start to make that shift into having additional people because you are your person and you're like, gosh, like there is so much. And then you carry so much weight on it. And you're like, I want to make sure that it's going to be delivered a certain way. And then can somebody else do it as well as I can? Or is it going to be different? But then a lot of times, or like, is there going to be lashback if they find out that it's not always just me? 9 times out of 10, they don't care. They just want,
Mhm.
at the end of the day, the end result. So,
Yeah.
yes, as long as I'm getting the result in the time and everything is great, then fantastic. And I find that for me, sometimes it's just as easy as saying, I'm training them, I'm overseeing it, I'm still responsible. I'm just able to then provide more because it's not just me. So I think honestly, though, I think that just comes down to a mindset piece where we have to get out of our own way and
Yes.
then be open to having the conversations. And a lot of the times they're business owners themselves. And so they know, yeah, of course, I get it. You have
Right.
to be the person. Right. And so I think sometimes even just starting to incorporate the we, like I have a very small team, but I talk about the we and I tell people that it's going to be, and I'm upfront. So
Yeah.
if you're coming on for a certain service, if we're managing your social media, I let you know I'm the creative director at that piece. I'm not the one physically creating your captions. I'm not the one putting all this
Exactly.
together. My team is
Yeah.
going to be doing that. And so I think people are like, hey, no, that's fine. You just have to be transparent. So talk to me a little bit about the confidence though. Did you feel like there was a confidence shift in how you had conversations once you had a website and you had a business email and you had a business name? So in addition to being able to have employees and have that conversation, talk to me a little bit about your personal side effects of having a branded business.
I felt real. It felt more real, even though nothing changed, rather than having a website or not having a website. When I finally did get everything scrubbed up and more professional, I just felt, okay, now I can really take this on. Now I'm really ready. Even though I was always ready all along, but it was just like this added, like almost when a superhero puts on their cape and is ready to take on the bad guy. It was kind of like, okay, I can do this now. Like if they look me up online, I am a legitimate person. I'm a legitimate business. So yeah, the confidence from doing all those small things, even creating a LinkedIn business profile, which really doesn't take a lot to do. But that for me was like, wow, it was just sort of the next step. And the previous agency that I had worked for, a few years, they had been in business for many, many years. And we actually have almost double the amount of followers as them to this day. And I just look back and I'm like, wow, I was so intimidated by doing all these things. And I wish I had started that a few years ago. So yeah, the confidence is huge.
Well, and I think it's we are intimidated, and then the to-do list is so long. And so I really love your approach where you were like, listen, I know that there's a really long to-do list. I'm just going to come to one thing at a time. And
Yep.
so don't get stuck in the like, I have to have all the things. Yes, eventually. And most businesses are on the same trajectory that you did, where it's like at one point in time, we had nothing. And then
Yeah.
we started with, like, for me, I'm like, well, be legit. Start with, I live in Florida. And so it's register with the state. And then like, be official, and then it's like, I highly recommend getting a bank account and then keeping your
Right.
finances separate, right? And then have a website. But when I say website, I'm not saying you have to have, like, a 50-page website from the jump. Start with a landing page, like, grab your domain, which, by the way, is the www dot whatever you put in when you're searching for somebody. For anyone that's listening that you're like, "Cool, domain what?" And this is where we went to business school. I went to business school as well, and I'm like, "Did I talk about domains in business school?" I don't really know. Like, I feel like all of the actual legit starting a business knowledge came after I got out of college. Like,
100%.
learning how to establish and start a business, I don't feel like I learned that in college. And so, but I love that you did it step by step. And so you're like, all right, a domain. And then said, next, what is a domain? And then once you have a domain, what's your next step? But I'm like, guys, yes, there are businesses out there that have like, you know, pages, 10 pages, 100 pages. One, a landing page, somewhere that you can direct someone to. And then this is the stuff that I talk about with branding all the time. It's that side effect of confidence that we didn't realize we were missing. And there's no difference between the person that had the idea and that was providing the service before they had the landing page and then the person after, other than the fact that all of a sudden you feel more legit and you come across more legit. At the end of the
Yes.
day, differentiating yourself between the person that's a fly by night and then making yourself look and feel like a legit business, it helps the client, but it also helps you. And that's the part that I love. Like for me, I look back and when I officially started doing branding, I had a website. I spent way too much time on a website, guys, by the way. So don't hold yourself back. Like I was the person that was like, okay, so officially launched. I want everything to be perfect. I want the website done. I want the logo done. I had all this stuff and literally wanted to change everything within like 3 months of officially starting to use it. So, like, you're not married to it. Don't get a tattoo of your first logo because hands down, you're most likely going to change it or your business name. Like, but just get out there and start doing the thing. And then one item at a time, become more legit as you go. So, I think and this is something that ties in, and I love this because you said this too. You said fail as fast as you can. So, talk to me a little bit about how that mindset has shaped your leadership and business decisions, because I think that ties in a little bit to the conversation that we're having. Like, don't always be perfect, just get out there and then fail. So, you're saying fail as fast as you can. I like to say fail. I fail forward a lot. Like, I fail and then fail forward. Like, that's it.
Yeah, I still tell my team this if we don't know the answer to something. I always say to them, well, let's fail as fast as we can so we can learn from it and get it right. So it's funny. It sounds horrible when I think about it, but it's not meant to be that way. It's more so if we spend 3 weeks researching something And then we try it out after all that time. Well, we've wasted 3 weeks on something that's not going to work. So in my mind, if we can just try it with what we have, what we know today, you know, evaluate what we could potentially be breaking or who we're impacting, of course. But as long as the impact is not too horrible, it could be as simple as, let's try a new applicant tracking system, or let's try new software or something. Like, let's just try it out. It doesn't work, move on to the next one. And every time I have applied that principle to my business, it's really, I don't know, it's really worked out well. I mean, whether it's with a client or a new idea, and that's sort of how I broke into offering a subscription service instead of typical percentages and charging clients based on an annual salary. I just was having conversations with clients constantly about percentages and trying to do what every other recruiting agency does. And I was in a meeting with a client and they were like, well, I'm not really sure about that. Dia just came up. I was like, oh, well, I have a subscription service. I had no subscription service. I completely made that up on the fly. And I was like, well, if this works out, then that would be great. And so they were like, yeah, that sounds great. I'd love to sign up for that. And so it was this monthly fee that I came up with. I quickly did the math for what made sense for the work that we do and logistics and all those things. And that's sort of how the subscription idea came about. I was in the middle of a meeting that wasn't going well. It was clearly failing. I was losing the client on the line. And I was like, subscription, yes, that's going to work. That's what I have. My other clients love it. And since then, that was the birth of that. So through the failure of what I was trying to do, I found sort of the niche and the direction of the company. And if I would have kept trying the other thing that wasn't working so well, we wouldn't be here today. So that's sort of where that comes from.
Well, and I think being open to pivot, like so many of us have gotten, and it's so hard to know the line between keep trying and or pivot because what's not working is it offer? Is it the messaging? Is it the whatever? Like, figuring out. But then I like to tell people start paying attention to what people are asking for
Yes.
because we get so caught up sometimes in this is what I want to offer. This is what I think you need. And then missing the mark. And so you pivoted very quick on a phone call. And you're like, well, I'm about to lose this because whatever I'm trying to offer, whatever it was, your solution was not what they wanted. And then I can't tell you how many times I've created an offer on the fly. And I take a different approach. Mine is more of like, oh, I've been thinking about doing this thing. So would you like to be a beta? Like, would you like to try it out and see if this is how it's going to work? And then when it does, I'm like, cool. And then now I'm going to run with it or I'm going to make whatever little tweaks. And I had something similar. I had an idea. I ran some ads over the summer, failed miserably. But what I got out of it was a lot of conversations regarding the need and the desire for something else. And I was like, oh, totally missed the mark on this. But then now I have an offer that everyone's been asking for. And I've just been too really caught up and like, no, this is what I think this is what I want to offer. And this is what I think you need.
Right.
And I missed the mark. So yes. And I think you're right. There are going to be so many times where it's trial and error and you aren't going to know until you get in and dive. So don't waste the time and the effort forever to make it perfect until you've tried it because you've had how many offers not go well. And then I think about all of the effort that I put into growth and messaging and landing pages. And I get caught up in this idea that like I'm in branding and everything has to be pretty. And then I realized most people don't even look at it. They're like, cool. Yeah, I saw that you sent me the website, but I didn't even look at it. I'm like, oh, okay, great. So glad I spent hours and hours on that. But what it does is that like legitimate like credibility piece, the visibility piece, and then you can tie in and pivot and change. So I think talk to me a little bit about something that you have seen female founders do as far as mistakes. Like I want to talk a little bit about maybe hiding behind their business or their brand. And then do you have any advice on how they can show up authentically? Because I think that's one of the things that female founders tend to want to hide behind what they offer. And I've heard time and time again, like, no, my work will speak for itself. I don't need the branding. I've been successful. I got out there and I've been cold calling and I've been doing it without any of this. So can you talk to me a little bit about that? Speak to that person, the one that's like, no, I don't need it.
Yeah. I mean, the ones that don't need it, I mean, you end up being like every other brand, like other company out there, not really standing out in any way. And in the beginning, I was like hiding the fact that I was a new mom or that, that I had kids and then I had other responsibilities and I was the serious businesswoman that was, here to help solve all the recruiting problems. And then during a meeting, I had my infant on the floor and he just starts wailing and I'm home alone. I'm in a meeting with the client and they're like, Lisa, do you have a child with you? And I'm like, yes, I'm a new mom. And it sort of was like this, like this big sigh of relief, but also like, oh, I've been caught. And they were like, oh, it's totally fine. I have 3 kids and I found it as a way to connect with people. So now, listen, most people have families. And if you don't, that's fine one way or the other. But me trying to put up this front of who I really am when I'm not working and trying to keep the two worlds separate really complicated my life rather than if I'm jumping in a call with a new client or something, hey, by the way, my kids are in the background. You might hear them, just want to let you know. Oh, blah, blah, blah. I have kids of this age. It's really an icebreaker. It sort of gives them an idea of how well I'm able to balance the two worlds, the fact that I'm able to do both. And it just feels more authentic and real to just be yourself, be in the moment. And it adds a layer to your brand that nothing else ever could. You couldn't buy it. I couldn't buy the traits that I have, or learned it any other way than being a mom. No one else can be me. So, in the same effect that no one else could be you.
Right.
So you've got to just use that and let that be the differentiator and don't get so hung up on trying to imitate what works for someone else because they're a completely different company person. And so at the end of the day, being authentic really is the best thing for any brand.
I love that. I think that's so for me, it's the two things came out of this conversation that I hear often and I feel often. I think for those of us that left corporate to go out on our own, there's this whole stigma about you can't let the kids know that you're there because most corporate environments, having children in present is taboo.
Yep.
Right. And so then we go out on our own and we're like, oh my gosh, in order to look legit and serious, we can't let them see or hear that we have kids. But most of us left corporate to be more present for our children, which means that we're most likely working with them somewhere around, especially in their younger years. And
Yes.
then, like, now I find myself trying to get the most I can done while they're at school. But inevitably, because the school hours are also not that long, you've still got crossover. But the authenticity piece. So one, it's letting go of the corporate norm. Corporate is corporate and that's how they're going to be. And that's totally fine if it works for them. But when you're running your own business, you get to set your own stuff. If you've got a client who's going to be offended by the fact that your child is in the background, most likely there's going to be something else that you guys disconnect on anyway.
Mm.
They're not a great fit. So
Exactly.
just own the fact that, like, this is who you are. This is the life that you're in. And I'm the same way. Like, if you're going to be upset because my kid may pop in, like, if we're on a call during the hours that my son walks in or my daughter walks in from school, I want them to come say hi to me. So I'm going to say, like, excuse me, just 1 second. Like, I'm going to say hi. Or when they were, younger, it's like maybe they will pop in the background. Great. And if that offends you, then there's probably going to be something else that I'm going to do that's not going to work out because I'm also the mom that's going to tell you they're a priority. My business and my clients are also a priority, but I need clients who understand that there could be a time when there's some give and take. Like for
Yes.
me, for my people that are moms, if you were to call me and say, hey, I knew this was due today, kids down with a fever and vomiting, I'm like, cool, that can wait till tomorrow.
Great.
Like, you get to be mom first today. I also know that that person is also gonna go above and beyond as soon as their kid is back up and running to get it caught up and done. So, like, that's okay. Like, and then if I have to step up because I want that flexibility and grace when that comes in on the other side. And then leaning into the authenticity piece, you said it, trying to be like somebody else. You can only keep a facade up for so long and then to me, it's like fibbing. You're like, what story are you telling? And then now you're spinning this whole web of like, what did I say I was going to do? Or what is it that I'm going to be
Right.
like? Or I don't know. Like, that's just not going to work. And just be you. And there are a lot of recruiting companies out there, just like there's a lot of branding companies out there. The only differentiator I have, and I used to get so mad about this, what makes you different? And I'd be racking my brain like, I don't know. How do I say what makes me different? Like my work is good, but so is theirs. Like what I'm like, well, you know what? You get me. This is my superpower. Like, can I make you feel comfortable? Can I bring your vision to life? Can I do all these things. Yes, but it's because of my personality and because we jive and because you and I can relate and then I can speak your language, for lack of better words. But if I'm not your person, we're not going to speak the same language. Like it's okay. And you can't be for everybody. And
Mhm.
so really honing into who you are authentically allows you to draw in the people that are the right clients. The ones that like are like,
Yeah.
"Yep, I wanna work with you." And I didn't care if you didn't have a website, and now you do, cool, I'm glad you're legit. But, like, those are the kind of things where you have to really hone into, like, why are you doing what you do? Who do you wanna serve? And then really just own who you are and let people get to know, like, and trust you. And then the right people will come to you. You may come across some of the wrong people too, and that's okay. But I loved how you were like, "Nope, just cut it off." Like, if you're getting a vibe that they're not the right client for you, I promise you that's gonna come back to haunt you later. So
Oh,
just
I love that. Yeah.
say no.
Yes. Mhm.
So, tips on, because this is something that I hear and they're like, "Yeah, that sounds great, but I'm not in a position to say no." How have you navigated that lane where you know that there's been a client who, I could really use this revenue right now, but I just really feel like there's a disconnect. Are you in that position now where if you feel like there's a disconnect, you still say yes? Or do you really lean into it has to be a good fit for both you and me?
I really lean into the fact that it has to be a good fit for both. Speaking about this is bringing me PTSD because I had a client, a couple of years back now, and they were looking for something in the healthcare space, something that just wasn't within our niche at the time. I had done healthcare recruitment, but I didn't enjoy it. Like it was such a drag. But I was like, oh, well, if I get this contract, then I'll have the funds to hire another recruiter or whatever it was at the time. And the client, within like 24 hours of signing, they were like, we have this expectation. And they were just super demanding. And I did feel that. Like I had that gut instinct in the initial intake. And I was like, oh, this doesn't feel good. Like I identified that and I was like, but the money feels better, right? And then I learned very quickly that we just did not see eye to eye on expectations, and it just did not end well at all in terms of, meeting their expectations and what they were looking for. So I ended up actually giving them back all of the money that they had paid me just so that I could just kind of close that chapter. And that was a big lesson that I learned. Like, okay, going forward, I'm only working with people who give me that gut instinct of this is going to work well. And I know you can't really check that. And I have a couple other parameters about like what I look for, but that's the main thing. If it doesn't feel good, it's just not going to end well because I want to work with someone that I can grow with and help them grow their company and someone that sees value in what I do. And yeah, that was an expensive lesson to learn early on.
And now I know.
Now I know.
And that's a hard one. And I think even if they're scaling your business, because we get caught up in like, we want the revenue. And then, yes, we want the clients. And this idea of maybe I can broach into a new space. Like, if I can land this, not only will I have the funds to maybe bring someone else on, but maybe this is a new avenue that I can approach. Yeah. If you have that gut instinct and it's a going, like, if all the little alarms are going off, that is just the beginning. Like, it's only gonna get worse from there, and they end up becoming the nightmare clients who end up costing you so much more than you possibly could have ever made from that.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
talk to me a little bit more about some additional systems or boundaries that you've put into place as you're scaling, because this is one of them. Like, yes, that gut check, but there's also other things, especially as being a mom who wants to prioritize. Are there top 2 or 3 things that you've done that you really like?
Having set work hours for myself. So what really changed from then to now is I mean, I remember literally giving birth to my third child and being on the phone with a client. Like I was in labor and my husband's like, put the phone down. Like, what are you doing? And I was like, no, I need to get this done. I have 15 minutes before the baby comes. And he's like, you're insane. Like, what are you doing? And I just think back to that and I'm like, wow, I was working, I went from working 15 minutes a day the first couple of years to almost getting addicted to the wanting to grow and almost losing sight of why I wanted to do this in the first place. So I had to put parameters in like, okay, I'm not waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning and then going to sleep at midnight and, just researching and going crazy. I'm going to go back to my principle of having some sort of schedule. So that has completely changed. Now I pretty much work, normal hours, maybe 2 or 3 hours a day, Monday through Friday. Um, and I don't get as obsessive. And it's almost like I did a full circle. Like I started with something really good in mind, and then it turned into a obsession, and then I'm bringing it back so that it so that it's healthy again. So I think that's something that was really, a game changer there. What else? What else?
What are some systems that you put in place to help you get your name out there? Like, what have you found that's really worked as far as helping you with your marketing or branding?
Saying yes to conversations. So in my LinkedIn in mail inbox, I would get in the beginning, like as soon as I changed it to founder, I guess like people do
Yeah.
a search and they find founders of companies. And I was a founder for like a month. And so I would get invites to conversations or meetings and things, and I would always decline them. And in the past couple of years, whenever someone had an invite, whether it was to a networking group or whatever it might be, I'm saying yes. So I've become a yes person because you just never know where that person or connection is going to take you. I mean, I have someone who I started a conversation with on LinkedIn 2 years ago who is now introducing me to a client base that they have just because of the friendship that we've developed over the last couple of years. So I think the system that I put in place there is just saying yes and being open to meeting with people. Almost when I first got started, had like a chip on my shoulder, like I'm gonna keep this to myself, and like sort of being secret about my business and like not really telling people my story and stuff. And now I sort of opened up and I'm sharing, and not being almost embarrassed of my, humble beginnings and things like that, to be more of an inspiration to others. So just sharing and being open, it's been a big game changer for me.
I love that. Saying yes to conversations. And it's a little different approach. Like I like to be in the right rooms, right? Like making sure you're in the room with the people that you can make the connections with so that you are not doing it all by yourself. So I love that. So as we wrap up, because this has been amazing, I love your little nuggets. And I am going to take to heart what you talked about with I liked how you phrased it, the obsession with becoming successful, because I find myself in these cycles where I say, like, well, I got really ambitious and I let my ambition kind of take hold again, right? Where it's like, ooh, I tasted failing and success. And then now I'm back to working. I left the 9 to 5 to work 24/7. I was like, this is not the life that I designed or wanted to create for myself. So boundaries are huge. And I highly recommend you set limits on when you are able to work, because if not, you will find yourself working all of the time and becoming obsessed. And when you're obsessed with something, I don't know about you, but when I obsess over it, it doesn't work out. And when I finally take back time and freedom and I allow myself the space to be the mom that I want to be the person that I want to be, to actually sleep. Because when I get into this rhythm of like, I'm, up till 2 at 5:30, it's work. Don't function. I think I'm functioning, but I just don't. But when I create the space and allow space, I actually grow more than in these seasons where I become obsessed with growth. So if anyone's been listening and they want to learn more about LMK solutions and how they can help with staffing or growing or whatever the case may be, where can they find you?
So the website is lmkrecruiting.com, or you can email me directly at lisa@lmkrecruiting.com. I'm always open to questions and helping others.
Fantastic. And are you on Instagram?
I am not. I'm mostly on LinkedIn. So if you
Okay.
want Lisa Klapschinski, I doubt there's a second one out there. If there is, let me know. Um, but people should be able to find me there.
Awesome. And if you don't know how to spell it, you can find it in the show notes. So we will definitely have links for everything for Lisa. Well, I really appreciate your time today. And if you could leave one nugget, what's your number one tip for someone who is a female founder out there looking to grow and scale her business?
Whatever idea you've been thinking of, just start now. Try it and start now. It's been in your head. And my rule of thumb is if I'm thinking about something for more than 24 hours, then I need to at least try it and see how it turns out so I don't have regrets.
I love that. And fail fast.
And fail fast, as you can.
That is amazing. Well, thank you again so much. And for anyone that's been listening, if you found this episode inspirational or helpful or know of anybody that could use Lisa's services, please be sure to share. And we would love to support and encourage. And as always, continue to get out there and make your branded impact. That's a wrap. Thanks so much for tuning in to the Branded Impact Podcast. If today's episode sparked something in you, please take a second to subscribe, leave a review, or share it with a friend who's ready to unlock their rebrand era. And if you're ready for a brand that's rooted in authenticity and built for impact, one that truly reflects your story, your energy, and your evolution, let's connect. Head to brandingbyjo.com or DM me on Instagram at brandingbyjo. Thanks for hanging out. Now get out there, show up with purpose, and make your branded impact. I'll see you next week.